Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan and it's time for a Gameweek 22 episode of our tier list video where we're going to rank some of the most popular transfers of this game week and just see how good they are. Guys, if you enjoy this one, make sure you drop a like, do subscribe if you're new around here. Let's get started. Okay, so as always, we're going to go through the 30 most popular players of the game week that people are bringing in, and we're going to separate them into these 5 categories, depending on how good I think they are as transfers, basically. So a little bit of a fun one, relaxed, chilled. We're going to start off with a young Mr. Marcus Rashford, who I'm going to put straight in the optional category. Now, I do think he is an option. I do think he's a little bit expensive. The fixtures are mixed for Manchester United, but one thing that should be said about Rashford is he is one of those players who, when he's in the right form, things kind of work for him, and you have to say recently he has been in fairly decent form. He's got a few FPL returns recently, a couple of goals in the last few game weeks, and maybe that's going to spur him on to get a few more. You never know. That's typically what he does. He goes on these little streaks, so I do think there's definitely potential here for him to maybe do something in the upcoming game week. So I think it's okay. Next up, Timo Werner. I'm going to put him in the optional category as well. This is a much more difficult one. I know some people are maybe looking for a new forward, but is Werner the answer? He got an assist in his debut game, and I think he should get some game time for Spurs throughout this season. My issue with him is, unfortunately, we do have a situation where in game week 26, if Chelsea win on Tuesday and beat Middlesbrough in their League Cup semi-final, then suddenly we're going to have a situation where Spurs and Chelsea blank in game week 26, and we just need to be aware of that one. So would not be rushing in on any Spurs or Chelsea players because they could blank in game week 26 and that could cause some problems later down the line. So do be aware of that one if you're loading up on Spurs and Chelsea players. If you already have a couple, maybe there could be some problems down the line before too long. So yeah, wait until after that game before committing to these kind of players. It's going to be the same situation with Liverpool, but I think Liverpool could double in game week 25. And I should say now, guys, if you do want to know what the lowdown is on all of the double and blank game weeks that are coming up very, very soon, I did upload a video last week, so check that out, and it goes through everything. So yeah, it's the chip strategy video. It's really, really helpful. Really recommend you guys watch that video if you want to know when the blanks and doubles are likely to be. But likely, if Chelsea win, it's definitely a blank for Spurs and Chelsea in game week 26, which is just not what we want. But we do need to carry on through these players. So let's put Højlund in next. I'm going to put him in the avoid category, I think. I think it's just better forwards to go for right now. I understand that obviously a lot of Man United fans will be pretty excited that Højlund is finally scoring a couple of goals in the Premier League. Obviously, that's brilliant, but I don't know. I feel like we've been burnt here before. I just don't know if I trust him to return regularly. At least with Rashford, he does have that history of doing quite well, and I just feel like, what is the opportunity cost? If you're going for Højlund, who are you sacrificing in order to get him in? It just doesn't quite sit right with me, so he's going to go in the avoid section for me. Maybe that's a little bit harsh, but I know Manchester United fans are going to think maybe I'm being a bit biased here. When we go through some Arsenal players, you're going to quickly see that I have a lot of criticism for Arsenal attackers as well at the moment. But yeah, Højlund, just don't trust him yet. Just do not trust him yet. But maybe you guys do. But yeah, unless you're a Manchester United fan, I can't see a reason to go for him, really. Next up, I'm going to put Gabriel in the good transfer category. And that's only because he has a knock. In general, I think Gabriel is a fantastic pick to have in your FPL team. A goal and assist and a clean sheet in game week 21 was definitely very nice for Gabriel owners. And I would be looking to pick him up. I think he's just a solid defender to have in your team throughout the rest of the season, really. Just that difficulty is he does have a potential knock. So wait for further news on Gabriel, but I think he still could be a good transfer. Next up, another Arsenal player. It's going to be Ødegaard, and Ødegaard is going to go in the avoid section. 8.5 million, a player who's only sort of got a couple of attacking returns in the past 7, 8 or 9 game weeks. He hasn't really returned too much at all this season, and I'm kind of curious, what do people see in Ødegaard? Am I missing something? Right now, he seems very expensive. He's not as involved in the attack necessarily. We've just seen Arsenal absolutely demolish Crystal Palace, and Ødegaard got 0 attacking returns. I mean, what does that tell us? Well, it tells us that Arsenal, as always, always, they are a team that has their attacking returns split so thinly between all of the players. You can never guarantee any individual attacker is going to be the dominant force in a game week. So he's going to be an avoid. Odegaard, avoid. And we'll be saying the same things when we come to another Arsenal attacker later in this video. Areola, optional goalkeeper. Yeah, unfortunately, no clean sheet against Sheffield United this week. But, you know, he's fine. If you want a nice, cheap goalkeeper, he does the job. He's okay. I think we can move on from there. Saliba, I think if you're going to choose between Saliba and Gabriel, you probably go for Gabriel, to be fair, don't you, at this point? I'm not sure I would bring Saliba in at this point at 5.6 million. I think there's a couple of other defenders that have higher points potential in the short term as well. So, yeah, I think Saliba will leave it optional. He's an okay player to have, but if you have the choice between him and Gabriel, you're going to pick Gabriel so long as he is fit. Now, I am recording this after the Liverpool versus Bournemouth game is finished, and there have been a couple of players getting FPL returns in that Liverpool game for that Liverpool team. One of them is Darwin Núñez. A couple of goals for him, so very, very nice. Do I think he's a good transfer, though? I'm still a little bit wary. Still a little bit wary about him. I am going to put him in the good transfer category, though. I think he's between optional and good. He's either low good or high optional. We know the risk with Darwin, though. We know that what the potential of what's going to happen is that he's going to miss chances and things are going to look very bad all of a sudden. But Darwin is a player who's going to be on penalties as well. But is this the time to buy him? Chelsea up next, then Arsenal. It's a risky one. I think he's okay at 7.4 million. I think it's an okay price for him, but just be aware. Be aware. Of course, Liverpool could have a double game week in 25, followed by a blank in 26 if they do go through in the League Cup, which it looks like they will do against Fulham. So there is a potential double game week for Darwin there as well. Could there be a bit of rotation? I'm not sure, but penalties while Salah's away I think is nice. So we're gonna leave him in there. Good transfer for now. Next up, Doughty. This is going to be a really controversial one, I know, but I'm going to put him in the avoid section. And it pains me to put him there. I know people like an underdog story, but I look at this guy, I think, yes, he's been getting FPL returns recently, but his numbers are not good. They're okay, but they're really nothing insane. He has been massively overperforming, and I don't think he can necessarily continue it. The next couple of fixtures are not perfect, I guess. Next fixture against Brighton, I'm just not sure. I think the biggest problem for me with him, though, is that, like I say about Liverpool going through, this could mean Luton blank in game week 26. And if Doughty is the kind of player who is kind of a bench rotation player, you're going to want to have your bench rotation players who are available to play in game week 26 to cover your Liverpool and Chelsea and Spurs players. You're going to need to have that cover. And I don't think Doughty is going to be able to provide that cover. Any double game week in 25 is not going to look particularly good anyway, considering Liverpool will be one of those fixtures. So overall, yeah, not really feeling this one. I think he's going to be an avoid. Yeah, sorry, guys. Erling Haaland, until we get injury news that he's going to be okay, he is an avoid. I don't think he's going to be available for this game week, personally. It doesn't look too likely. It could happen, but wait and see. Wait and see. We've still got a few days left. Keep your eye on Haaland news. If he's back, then maybe you go for him, but I don't think that's going to happen, so right this second, he is in the void. João Pedro, like him as a pick, nice and cheap, should be nailed on, whilst Kalidou Mitoma is away at the Asian Cup. I think it's a very, very decent transfer to go for if you're just looking for a nice cheap forward, maybe free up a bit of budget or maybe have that rotation option. On penalties, should be playing pretty regularly and is the star striker of Brighton at the moment. Let's see how he gets on Monday first, though. I'm very curious. I do have him in my team, so yeah, I do feel pretty happy about him, but let's see. The fixtures are nice, though. Luton up next for him. Pretty nice. Next up, Bernardo Silva. I guess he's optional. Not particularly high optional, though, so I'm going to put him down there. I think rotation risk for Man City is going to skyrocket as the likes of, you know, De Bruyne is coming back now. Doku, Haaland's going to be back before too long. Bernardo, I don't know where he's going to fit in because, you know, City pretty much have very, very soon, they're going to have a full bill of health in those attacking areas, and there is going to be rotation, and he's going to be painful. So there you go. Bernardo, optional. Alisson, I guess he's okay. I think I don't mind Alisson to a degree. He's a little expensive. I say a little expensive. He is the most expensive goalkeeper in the game. And that does worry me a little bit. Do we really want to be spending this much money on a goalkeeper? I guess probably not, which makes him an avoid. But Double game week in 25 is looking likely. The blank in 26 is going to be easier to cover for a goalkeeper because most of us have 2 playing goalkeepers at the moment. If you've got a Turner or an Areola or a Dubravka as your other goalkeeper, I think Alisson can be covered pretty easily for the blank in 26, assuming that happens. But so much to spend on a goalkeeper. I'm going to put him in optional. Not happy with that price though. Diogo Jota, still like him. Still like him. A little bit of rotation risk there. But yeah, I mean, we've seen in Game Week 21 what this guy can do. He is a machine. He's really, really good and a really high upside player. The next couple of fixtures, like I say, are not ideal with Chelsea and Arsenal up next. But look, Liverpool are an elite attack. They really are an elite attack and they can score against anyone. Have no doubt about that one. Van Dijk, I think, similar situation to Alisson, but because he's harder to cover in Game Week 26 because he's an outfield player, I am going to put him in the avoid section. Please don't, confuse that with me saying Van Dijk is a bad player or a bad pick in general, but would I be buying him right now with the next 2 fixtures and a potential blank on the horizon? I don't think I would. Even with the double, I would be waiting for Trent to come back from injury before I go for Van Dijk, to be honest. So, it's going to depend on your chip usage a little bit. If you're planning wild cards and free hits around the blank area, then maybe that could change things a little bit. But in general, I don't think Van Dijk is too much of a sensible pick. I think a Jota or a Darwin have a higher upside there if you're going to load up on Liverpool players, which could be dangerous given that upcoming blank. Now, Walker is a pick I like. I'm tempted to put him in great transfer, to be fair, but I'm going to drop him into the good transfer category. Decent fixtures coming up. Burnley up next. Pretty likely clean sheet, you would say, for Manchester City. Walker seems to be reasonably nailed on, and we've got a nice double game week already locked in Game Week 25 for Man City, which should be pretty nice. So, yeah, in general, good transfer. Like the look of Walker. Yeah, decent stuff. Next up, Saka. Can't put him any higher than optional anymore. I really don't think I can. Like, we see this time and time again with Arsenal attackers and Saka. Arsenal can score as many goals as they like, but, it's going to be spread out. And do you really want to spend 9.1 million on a player who is just not a talisman, basically? When you're spending that much money, you want a Son or a Salah or a Haaland or maybe even a De Bruyne. These talisman players who, are guaranteed to be involved in everything that their team does. And I'm just not sure Saka is that player. He's okay. He's an option, but at 9.1 million, if you haven't got him already, I would not be that tempted to go for him right now. I would even consider selling him if you do have him. If you can make a nice move to a different player. I don't think he's a must sell, but would I be buying him at this point? Nah, I just don't think so. So, yeah, going to go in optional. Next up, Kieran Trippier. It's actually rumours and murmurings at the moment that he may be leaving to go to Bayern Munich. Don't know how likely that is. There's no bid accepted yet. But it's possible that Trippier could move to Bayern Munich, so you don't really want to be buying him whilst there is kind of rumours that he might be leaving the Premier League, because you would have to sell him again. That would be very problematic, particularly as a 6.7 million defender. Pretty expensive. In addition to that, we've got Aston Villa up next. It's an away fixture for Newcastle, which I think is going to be a little bit troublesome for Newcastle. I expect him to concede in that game, to be honest. So Trippier is just not a player I'd like to buy right now. But side note on this, if Trippier does leave the Premier League, Livramento is 4.3 million. After this game week, like, Newcastle play Luton, I believe, and that's going to be a really, really nice fixture for our Newcastle players. So, maybe Livramento very, very soon could be the guy to go for. But right now, Trippier, whilst the rumours are going, you can't buy him. You can't buy him. Surely not. Watkins has a similar problem to Saka, I guess, that I guess it is a little bit too expensive for what he offers. I think Watkins is going to be more involved in the Aston Villa attack, though, than Saka is in the Arsenal attack. The price is not great, but I don't know, guys. Do we think that he's probably a better pick than some of these other players? I mean, I guess Saka, I'm being a bit harsh. Saka's probably better than Rashford. Watkins is probably better than Timo Werner. So, yeah, maybe these guys go around this area. It's just like an okay player. If you have them already, fine. Keep them if you need to. Sell them if you want to. But just a little bit too expensive for what they're offering at the moment. Solanke, really like him. After that Liverpool game, now that's out the way, I think that's going to be really nice for Bournemouth with these great fixtures coming up. So I think he is definitely going to be a very reliable pick. We're going to put him in the good transfer category. Can actually bump up Jota a couple of levels there. And we'll put Solanke up near him as well. Maybe we'll put Solanke here because no double game week scheduled in yet. Although we will have a double game week, including Luton Town at some point for Solanke I really can't tell when that's going to be, though. If I've looked through the fixtures, if I've looked through the schedule, it could be anywhere. It could happen at random, pretty much. So that might happen very soon for Solanke. I think he's a good player to own in general. Next up, Julian Alvarez. He's going to go in optional because I think Haaland's going to be back reasonably soon, and I'm a little bit worried that, you know, you're going to have to sell him again in like soon after buying him. So therefore, is he really worth buying? I mean, I think he could do well against Burnley, but after that, he might be a player that you actually have to sell pretty soon. So he's definitely a captain option. Definitely a captain option for Game Week 22. So for that reason, he has to go in optional because I think it's worth bringing in a player, even if you're going to remove him again, if that means you're going to captain them. And we don't know. Haaland could be out for another few weeks. You never know. So it could be still advantageous to go for Alvarez, but it's a risk. It's a serious risk to go for him, so that's why he can't go any higher than optional, I'm afraid. Right, we're going to put our first great transfer down. That's going to be Pervis Estupiñán. We put him in a similar position last game week. I think he's probably the best defender to go for at the moment. Yeah, let's see how he gets on against Wolves, but certainly what we've seen recently is attacking returns and clean sheets, which is very, very nice. That's what we like in FPL. So, yeah, very, very attacking left back for Brighton, a team who have reasonably good defensive numbers despite lacking clean sheets a little bit, but really you own Estupiñán for his attacking potential, and boy does he have that. Beginning of the season, he was an essential player, so now he's got to be at least a great transfer, right? Next up, Richarlison suffers the same problem as Timo Werner in that we have that potential blank, so don't go for Richarlison quite yet. Wait until at least after Tuesday before making that decision, but Richarlison's a decent pick in the short term at least. I think over, you know, if you have a view to remove him after 4 game weeks, I think Richarlison is a fine player to own for now. After that, you know, when Son's back, there's probably going to be some rotation risk with Werner there, Johnson there, you know, Kulusevski, Maddison's going to be back as well. You know, there's going to be a lot of problems for rotation for those Spurs attackers, unless your name is Son or Maddison. Those are the only real nailed players. I guess Kulusevski as well. And after that, it's going to be Werner, Richarlison, Johnson fighting for one spot. So the next couple of game weeks, I like Richarlison. After that, problems, whether that's blanks or rotation, it's going to be problems. So yeah, he can't go any higher than kind of a low good transfer, but in the short term, I think he's got pretty good potential. Next up, Gordon, another good transfer. Yeah, we've got that tricky game against City out the way, and he did okay in that game, didn't he? But next up, we've got Aston Villa. Maybe you could wait one more game week before going for him, but after that, we know Newcastle have great fixtures, so in general, yeah, decent pick. Would I put him higher than Jota? Yeah, probably, to be fair. Yeah, let's stick him around there. Maybe even higher than João Pedro. Gordon's been very reliable this season. Like him as a pick. Very, very decent. Let's move on. Phil Foden. Also going to put him in the good transfer category. I worry a little bit about rotation, but he has been in good form, and we do have a double game week coming up as well. And I think Foden will definitely play a part in that double game week. So let's... I know you guys are probably going to say, well, if Foden's there, shouldn't Bernardo be there? I think Foden's probably a little bit more nailed on, to be fair. Not that there's any such thing at Man City. But yeah, let's put Foden in around here. No blank coming up. Double game week coming up. It's a very, very nice situation, right? Right, we need to move on to Isak. And this is such a tough one. I really don't know where to put him. I think good transfer is probably about right. But... problem is, I'm really worried Callum Wilson's might be back. We've got the Aston Villa game, and then Callum Wilson might be back, and then we're going to have rotation problems for Isak all over again. But when Isak plays, he's great. He's great. He really is great. I know he had that like run of blanks, but he was apparently not fully fit at that time, so you can kind of understand it a little bit. Guy on penalties as well. He's a decent FPL asset. He really, really is. But he's a risky one. He really is. So maybe because of that risk, he needs to drop down into high optional. So that's where we're going to put him. High optional. Decent attack. But yeah, I think I'll just prefer at this point a Darwin or a João Pedro. Or even a Solanke. I think I prefer these guys to Isak at the moment. But yeah, let's move on to Pedro Porro. Again, same situation with Richarlison. In the short term, he's great. Like, really great. And I think the thing is with Pedro Porro is that his potential, his points potential is so high. If he gets an attack and return and a clean sheet, we're talking 10-point pluses, like, you know, on the regular. If we can get some clean sheets for Spurs. Maybe that's ambitious. But certainly, you know, even though we might get a blank, you know, it might be worth it to go for him in the short term anyway. But again, wait till after Tuesday before committing to Spurs or Chelsea players. Yeah, cannot say that enough. Next up, Tony. I think he has to go in the great transfer category, doesn't he? He's back. He's back and with a bang. Double game week coming up as well. It is a tough double game week, to be fair, against Liverpool and Man City. But he's a guy known as kind of fixture-proof. He can do well even in the more difficult fixtures. On free kicks, on penalties, has that, you know, kind of... He has just that thing about him. He's a great FPL asset. Last season we saw that. Finally he's back. Another forward option to add to the list. I think he's probably one of my favourite forwards to go for this game week, to be fair. I said it last game week. I'll say it again. I like this pick. I just like this pick. I like Tony. What can I say? I'm a fan of Tony. Next up, Cole Palmer. Again, we don't know if Chelsea are going to blank in game week 26. Is Palmer going to do enough in the short term to justify it? Potentially, but the next fixture is Liverpool. So in general, whilst I think there's not really an excuse not to have Palmer, if I didn't have him right now, and guys, you really, really should have him by now if you don't already, would I be desperate to buy him in this particular game week? I don't know. I still would like to have him. I would still like to have him, but I don't think he's a must-have. I mean, yeah, the closer we get to the blank game week and when we're about to play these difficult fixtures, like the likes of Liverpool, these are not the greatest times to go in on a Cole Palmer. Maybe wait to next game week, maybe don't go for him at all. But in general, I still think he is a player who should be high on your priority list if you don't have him. But not a must-buy. Not a must-buy this game week. Anyway, one more player to go before we wrap up the video. And yeah, you probably know who it is already, the hype player of Game Week 22. And it is going to be Kevin De Bruyne. I think he's a great transfer. There we go. I've said it. You know, he was benched last game week. We kind of knew that was going to happen. What we might not have necessarily known is that he was going to come off the bench, get a goal and an assist. Like, guys, you know, he also scored in his last bench appearance. That, you know, it seems like he's getting a few minutes off the bench, but he's doing damage in that few minutes. Maybe that's something I overlooked a little bit. Even last game week, if I got this, you know, the same situation again, I probably would have not bought De Bruyne last game week because of that benching that we kind of knew that was going to happen. But we've got a couple of weeks between Man City's last game and the Game Week 22 fixture. It's a decent break. We know he's back, getting match fit, match ready. Could Burnley be his first start back for Manchester City? If it is, huge. Captain material. In fact, probably the best captain of the game week if Erling Haaland isn't back as well. So, yeah, really, really nice transfer. But I would say only buy De Bruyne if it's not going to damage your ability to get the likes of Salah and Haaland and maybe even Trent Alexander-Arnold back into your FPL team, because I think, you know, they're possibly going to be the priority, particularly, you know, Salah with a double game week in 25. If he plays in that, that's going to be huge. And Haaland is just going to be a player you want to own in general. So, yeah, De Bruyne, great pick. If you can manage to get him into your team, fantastic. I say do it. I say do it. I really do. Yeah, really like this pick. But yeah, I don't know what else to say. I'm really, really tempted to get him. I really, really want him. I don't think he's a must-buy, but he's definitely really, really tempting right now, isn't he? Let me know, guys, what you think about De Bruyne. Are you going to be buying into the hype? If you do buy him, do you also think he is the best captain as well? Would you be looking to captain De Bruyne in Game Week 22 against Burnley? It looks really, really tempting, doesn't it? I think we'll probably get around 60 minutes, 65 minutes from De Bruyne. And we've seen what he can do from a substitute appearance. Now imagine double that time against an easier opposition. Man, this could be nice. It could be nice. I mean, we almost forgot how good this guy is, but you know, we remember now. We really remember now. So yeah, there we go. That is going to be the completed tier list. Hopefully, we've got everyone in the right areas. I don't think there's any must-buys this game week at all. Let me know what you think about the order. Have we got it roughly right? If not, who should be where? And if there's any other players we haven't mentioned in today's tier list video, let me know in the comments, and I'll try and place them as well, because there's always more players to talk about. Thank you so much for watching today's video, guys. If you enjoyed it, make sure you drop a like. Do subscribe if you're new around here. And I know I've spoken a lot about double and blank game weeks today. I'm going to put a link to the video that I was talking about, where we talk about where all the doubles and blanks are going to be between now and the end of the season, as well as some chip strategies in that video, when you should use your chips. So, guys, please go check that video out. It's really going to help you. But aside from that, I will see you on tomorrow's video /stream, and I'll see you later, mates. Bye-bye.